Hey, everybody, welcome to another episode of the Origins Podcast with me, Sean Hamel. Today I have one of my favorite people in dentistry, Dr. Eric Roman, on the show, holding back the tears already from what's coming forth today with his origin story of gosh, man, you kind of take over. Like, I mean, you've got the practices, which did really well, got out of that, moved out to Utah, which we were just joking about. That's kind of when we met, was when you were doing your cross country trip with your son, I believe it was.
It was.
And
the dog.
And the dog. Not the dog that got hit by the car that turned you into the dentist, right?
Don't go there. Don't go there, Sean.
But just how crazy it is too to see DEO taking off, see your personal brand and everything taking off, man. Thank you so much for being on the show. I really appreciate it.
Sean, it's funny how our relationship has been forged just gradually and slowly over time. And I actually really give thanks for that. And that's the kind of thing that I want more of in my life, is things like this. So thanks for allowing me to be with your community today.
Man, I appreciate you. So where do you want to start? I mean, I know you started with the dental path. You got to the dental path, huge success there. And then you've branched off and now you're doing a multitude of different things. How did you get into dentistry? Like, did you know you wanted to be a dentist when you were a kid? Was there like a rosebud moment where you were like, this is for me? How did you get into dentistry?
What's funny is I actually knew I didn't want to be a dentist. Now, I don't have dentist daddies or dentist mommies. I had no dentistry in my family. I had a dermatologist as an uncle. I had an ER doc as a cousin. And I thought I was going to be a physician or a psychologist. I don't know why I thought I was going to be a psychologist. But the one thing I knew I wasn't going to be was a dentist. And I knew that because every time I went to the dentist, every 6 months, my dentist was like, Eric, you should be a dentist. Like, no, this isn't. And every time my mom we'd be riding home, I remember she'd be like, Dr. Arthur says that you should be a dentist when you get older. Have you thought about that? I'm like, no, not going to happen. And so I had a completely, simple dental experience as a kid. I didn't have any issues until I think I was 17 years old. He's like, hey, we need to get those wisdom teeth out. I'm like, whoa. I was like record skips, just hold on a moment. This doesn't sound like normal. And so he sent me to the oral surgeon. I was freaked out. And I actually remember during the consult with the oral surgeon, I was like, so what happens if we don't do this? Like, I'm just curious, like anything that I could do to get out of it. So they sedated me. They took out my wisdom teeth. And when I was at the post-op with the oral surgeon, he was like, so what'd you think? And I was like, this actually was pretty straightforward and cool. I really enjoyed the experience in a weird sense, kind of weird. He's like, hey, well, do you want to work with me this summer? Like, let's skip first base and just like work together. And I'd been working in the back of a Foot Locker shoe store every day.
Nice.
Moving dusty boxes around. Yeah. And so like every day I'd go home with like paper cuts all over my hands from the cardboard and like dust in my eyes. I'm thinking, well, this is at least a little bit cleaner than working at a Foot Locker. And so I did it. And I freaking loved it. Like, the nastier that it was, the more I loved it. And so that was the experience I was having right as the summer before I started college. And that kind of just iced it for me. I'm like, this is pretty cool. And you know what else? All the dentists I hung out with kind of generally like were happy they were dentists and not physicians. Mm-hmm. And all the physicians that I hung out with, my uncle and my cousin, wish they were dentists. And so I just was going with the data. They're like, yeah, I kind of like being a dermatologist, but I really wish I'd been a dentist. ER's fun, but it would have been better if I was a dentist. I'm thinking, golly, I'm getting the same messaging over and over again. It's funny. One of the rhythms I have in my life is every once in a while I do this activity where I say, what things is my conscious mind like overlooking that life is trying to show me, a message that life is trying to send me. I was just talking about that with a friend today. And the message that life was sending me was, go to dental school, dude. And so that was it, Sean. That's where it all came from. That was the origin story of how I got into dentistry. And the rest was a completely non-traditional journey.
So, and that's awesome. And that it just, I don't know. It sounds like it was planned long before you even arrived. But
Can't say
once
no to
you,
life, dude.
so once you graduated, and got into practicing, how did you end up with multiple locations? I mean, what do you think it was that where you kind of had this Midas touch with
Mm,
practice success and things like that? Because I mean, we meet a lot of doctors and stuff. Some struggle, some seem to have an easier path. I think a lot of it is the relational piece. Some people are just naturally better at relationships, so it kind of flows easier for them in the business day to day. It's not so taxing because you meet a doctor that's really introverted and they're chair side all day and they're exhausted at the end of the day. What do you think was kind of the catalyst for you really being like, wow, like I'm actually really good at building practices and that sort of thing?
well, we could just go with the simple stick and say I got really lucky. Like, one of the things I've learned in life, Sean, too, is that luck always plays chance plays a part in the things that happen. As much as I'd like to say that it was a plan, I can make it sound like a plan, but life had different things in store. So one option A, is that I got lucky, and I have a sneaking suspicion that's in there everywhere. But it's only now I'm on version 4.0 here, right? And so I get to look back at all the other versions, and I get to kind of reflect. This is what I do in life, and reflecting back, looking at this question. What people have told me is that I do have some distinct gifts that made things easier. One was the ability to relate to you. That made me a really effective dentist really quickly. That made me a lot more effective as a dentist than any clinical skills or anything ever would. And if you're building a dental company, you got to be good at being a dentist. And so that was a cornerstone. Two, I was born to teach. And teaching to me was about me training my team and increasing their skills, so that we could be consistent and so that we could multiply. It was about training doctors to move from, I trained young doctors straight out of school. And so it was about going straight from, I don't know what the crap I'm doing, to being highly effective really quickly. And so I built systems for that. And that leads to the third thing. I was really good at constructing systems. I was good at I see systems as solutions to chaos.
So you're a natural architect.
I didn't know any of those things going into it. So that's maybe the chance inside of it too. That was just the blessing and the gift that I had, though. So those things came together. And there was one other thing in there. And I guess my ego was big enough to where I had a lot of hubris and I made ballsy moves.
Mm-hmm.
And so when other people were, I started with a second doctor. Well, who's doing that? I remember when I was talking to Bank of America and stuff like that, and I showed them my business plan. They're like, this is dumb. We're not going to lend you any money if you're going to do things this way. And so I had to lie. Don't tell anybody. I had to lie to get my business plan through and stuff like that. And I had, at about 12 months into my practice journey, I had 3 doctors working with me already. And I started opening another practice less than 18 months in. Those things all sound stupid when I say them. I wouldn't even recommend it to anybody. But it was some of the dumb stuff that I did. And maybe part of it too, Sean, is that, do you know what? It's all coming. I'm learning things about myself right now. Thanks, buddy. When I was in college, I was a baseball player. I was a closer as a pitcher. And so when the game was on the line, and when the pressure was mounted, I was handed the worst case scenario. Bases are loaded. The guy's gonna be the first round draft picks at the plate. This is gonna be really great for you. Go fix this crap. And there was the reason I was a closer. I wasn't. I mean, I threw hard enough, but I wasn't like your prototypical closer. But I closed because of my head. And the coaches were like, listen, you can deal with this and process it and move on. And that was the skill. And so maybe, Sean, there's a component of the fact that I put myself, because I knew maybe that I could handle pressure and ridiculous situations, I put myself in them frequently. And I find that pressure is a really good, for me, two things that teach really well are pressure and pain.
Mm-hmm.
And so putting myself in pressure situations or painful circumstances forced me to learn and adapt at a much faster rate. I actually, when other dentists like hear my story and all the different things I've done, they're like, wait, how old are you? Like, how have you done so many different things in so little time? Like, I'm just learning to tie my shoes and you've done a lot of stuff. And I think it's that scenario. I put myself in these situations for better or for worse. And they forced me to rely on some of my skills that allow me to adapt really quickly. So here we are, man. Like, woo, kind of making me sweat just talking about it.
Well, that's good, man. That's what we do here. We put
Yeah.
you under
Thanks.
the pressure cooker, man. But how would you encourage a doctor to step into that vulnerability though? Because it's, I mean, I don't like being uncomfortable. I don't like making uncomfortable decisions, right? And
Yeah.
so, how would you encourage somebody to maybe try that without, worrying about the sky falling the second they do?
Yeah.
Or do you think you're just a natural risk taker?
Calculated risks,
Calculated
Sean. Like,
risks.
I calculate my risks really well. I know my fallbacks. I'm actually a pessimist living in an optimist's life. I spend a lot of time looking at the variables and planning ahead and saying, okay, so I'm a huge fear setter. I teach fear setting all the time to people, like looking at what are all the things that could potentially happen, but that's not fear setting. Fear setting is when you take those things and you're like, okay, I lose my job, I have no income. What do I do then? And you play it out and you're like, okay, here's what I do. Then you play out your second scenario and you ask other questions about them. Okay, here's what I would do. Would I be fine? Yeah, I'd be fine. But what might I learn? What
Mm-hmm.
might I have missed out on if I didn't try this? And so having that sort of mindset and going into change, Sean's a really big deal. Yeah, people can talk about, change is easy. Change is never easy. Change is always hard.
Mm-hmm.
And if it's easy, you probably did it wrong. So,
Right.
I think one of the mindset shift would, for some, maybe it's to look at the eventualities and to sit there and say, hey, well, what's the worst thing that could happen? If it does, what will I do? What will I learn? And a lot of times then you build up this big pile of stuff that's on the side. It's like, don't change and change. And then you look over here and change. You're like, crap, no matter what happens, even all the bad crap, it turns out really well for me. And then maybe the second thing, Sean, is I'm really committed to who I'm going to become.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that who I'm destined to become isn't going to arrive if I keep doing the crap that I'm doing right now. And I'm so committed to him, like to that I have to change. That's another portion of it. And maybe the last thing that I'll say is, what are the voices inside of the fear there? One of the things I think about inside of my life is that the version 1.0 of Eric, version 1.0 went all the way through the sale of my first demo. That was like, who the crap am I? And figuring it all out. And almost everything inside of my life was about other people's voices. It was like my parents' voice, you should become a doctor. It was the profession. This is how we do dentistry. It was my peers, my family members, my friends, my wife, my kids, even like what I imagined they were saying. But what was funny is that all those voices that were causing me to make decisions or choose not to change because I was scared because of the voices I heard, none of those voices were me. That's kind of the funny thing. It was all everybody else's voice. And I had that. I'm only having that realization now, like version 3.0 and 4.0. Am I like, dude, everything you've ever done has been about other people's voices and other people's crap, not yours. And so that's kind of my commitment to me becoming me, is that everybody else is actually, even the people that love us the most, sometimes are the most vested in us not changing. Think about that for a moment. Your spouse, your family members, your friends, people that are closest to you, they're close to you right now. And they can be some of the biggest resistors to your change. They can be the people that put the most energy into making sure you stay right where you are. And it's a sad but true thing. And so I just have to stay committed to the guy that I know I'm created to be. and haven't yet arrived at and never will.
That's good stuff, man. And as you're making these revolutions, how are you finding yourself doing it? I mean, I've read a lot of different books. There's a lot of different approaches. Is it just your daily routine? Are you just like swapping out habits? Are you hitting a milestone, then your habit adjusts? Like, what does that look like?
When I was building businesses, I got super into EOS. I think in 2013, Entrepreneurial Operating System, the book Traction.
Mm-hmm.
If people haven't heard of it and they're operating businesses, just go buy the book Traction, figure it out.
Mm-hmm.
I became a huge EOS guru. I used what I learned from EOS and from scaling up to build an operating system for dental companies, for dental businesses. And so there's a beauty to a system. There's a beauty to something being systematic, to documentation and rules, right?
Mm-hmm.
Where am I going? What are my rules to get there? What are the actions that I take on a daily basis, daily, monthly, quarterly basis? And dude, I've been teaching that to dental businesses for years, and it works over and
Mm-hmm.
over and over and over and over again. And I kind of got peeved because what I realized, like, my businesses were growing like wildfire, but my life was like trash.
Mm-hmm.
I ended up with 5 kids because I was never home. And when I showed up, like, my wife showed up pregnant. And I wasn't a good husband. I wasn't a good father. I wasn't present. I wasn't the father husband I wanted to be. I didn't have any friends. I had no friends. I had no friends at age 38. It's weird. And but not uncommon.
No, it's
And
kind of an entrepreneurial burden, man. It's a lone wolf kind
it
of a
really
thing.
is.
Yeah.
Yeah, your friends are all your business associates, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I looked at it and I'm like, what is the reason why my business life has all these cool solutions and it goes really well, but my home life, my family life is just trash? And I came to a couple answers. Number one, it's really easy to be validated for what we do in business. Hey, you generated more revenue. You're awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Business validation, like we talk about all the time. Like, I go to work and I'm a hero. I go home and I'm a piece of crap. Like, it's easy to be validated by what happens in the working world, and really hard to be validated by like kids that blow diapers up, right? Like, that's not super validating. Like, did I do something wrong? Not good validation. Second thing is that because of those validations, or maybe in spite of them or whatever, when we're having trouble in our businesses, there's so many great solutions, off the shelf solutions. Hey, Sean, read this book, follow this system, hire this consultant. Whoever told you to go hire like a family or personal life consultant? Like, I mean, I know we have counselors. It's a very different solution.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody tells you to get a business counselor, right? Like, we have these dialed in solutions, but we tell you to get counselors about your personal life and your family life. So the solutions, like, just, they didn't match up. And honestly, that's what I've done in my own life for the past probably 6 or 7 years. Is I've tried to make something that is more fluffy and non-systematic. I created a personal and family life operating system. I've been living it. And sharing it, and so that is, what is that? It's a weekly habit. It's a daily habit. It's a quarterly set of habits. I take every 90 days. I take a personal retreat. I take 2 days of every 90 days committed to nothing but me. No business. My phone's not on. No text messages. I go off the grid. I'll typically have a friend or some peers that I go with where we do this together, because you can see more when you have other people looking into your life too, right? Like, kind of pushing on the edges. And I have a sequence that I follow where I reflect on what happened, where I look at Eric 25 years from now, and I think about then, I commit to habits for the next 90 days. I commit to my mindsets too. That's a really big deal for me, Sean, is the mindsets that we bathe in, like, have immense power over us. And so every day, and that breaks down into my quarterly plan and what I do every day. I meet with myself once a week. Also, I have a 30 to a minute to an hour meeting with myself every week to kind of sit there and say, how'd you do this week, dude? These are the commitments you made to your life. Is this still who you are? How did you live your values? How are you doing with your habits? Are you closer to and are you living your mindsets? And I look at my schedule and I actually look and I think, did I do it? And then my daily habit is I bathe in my mindsets. I bathe in my mindsets and I just look at my commitments just briefly as part of my morning quiet time. And hey, the things you bathe in, you start to smell like. It's really easy. you know? And
Yeah, for sure.
so yeah, that's like, I wish I wish I was one of those dudes, Sean, that just wakes up with like immense willpower. Like,
Oh yeah,
you know who they are. They
yeah.
piss me off.
Oh,
Uh,
David Goggins drives me crazy.
oh, shut
He
up,
makes me
David.
so
Like,
nuts.
man, I'm driving around Utah and he's coming, the David Goggins show, like coming to an arena near you to see how powerful I am and how I can do
Oh,
9,000 pull-ups
he
with
makes you
one
feel
arm.
awful about yourself.
Love him. I won't even read his book. I like just read stuff on him. I'm like, you don't resonate with me, you handsome stud. Like, go do your own crap and stay out of my life. I'm weak, dude. I am weak and I'm pathetic. I do not have willpower. I have to create architecture and an environment around me that gets the outcomes that I need. So call me lazy, but if you're lazy like me, then let's build a system, bro.
That's awesome. And
Yeah.
that's how DEO came to be, right? Is you started teaching traction to
Yeah.
practices, right? And then it
Yep.
kind of just evolved.
Yeah, that was really cool because so what we had done, Josie Sewell, my business partner in that, we built what we had called the dental operating system, and that's what it was. She was actually teaching EOS at the time, but then we branched off to make it proprietary because there were things EOS wouldn't let us do that were important to dental groups. And so we were doing that, and the DEO, we were like, it's kind of funny. All of your customers are our customers. And we were like, that's kind of weird. It's kind of like it would fit together. And Jake's like, and it would be really helpful for us to have some of that training, like firepower that you guys have. How about we match it all up? And yeah, that was the beginning. And so my personal coaching I was doing for dental CEOs, and then the dental operating system all flowed into the DEO. And yeah, it's been that was a really fun ride. It was really, it's such a great group. Really unique culture. I love the emerging in the mid-market DSO space too. It's been my home. That's where I've lived my entire career inside of dentistry. Yeah, that was the origin of that DEO relationship. Boom.
Boom. So what's next for you, man? What's Eric Roman 5.0? Where are you headed?
Dude, I don't even know what I'm going to leave some space for 5.0 right now because I literally just 4 weeks ago crossed into 4.0. That was a really big shift, and honestly, probably what it was for me inside of 3.0, inside a lot of my space and time with the DEO. It's really been helping people build great dental organizations, right? That's a lot of what I've lived for. But it's funny. Like people say, Eric, when you talk about the stuff in your personal life, you light up. When you talk about the systems you use to with your family or with your kids, like your countenance shifts. And again, do you remember the thing I talked about at the beginning? When life is telling you something over and over, what things is life trying to tell you over and over that our consciousness might be trying to suppress? My consciousness was like, hi, I'm Eric Roman, and I teach people how to build great DSOs, right? Like that's what my consciousness said. And life was constantly saying, time and time again, people are like, you light up when you talk about personal stuff. Could you tell me more about that? And so the shift from 3.0 to 4.0 was me stepping into that. And, this operating system that I built and refined with a dear friend of mine over the course of the past 5 years, we've been delivering it quietly to entrepreneurs in all sorts of different industries. And they're like, hey, this is amazing. This is life-changing. It's the best thing in my life in a sense. And so, I decided recently to go all in on that.
That's
And
awesome.
it's the operating business. It's the One Life system, and we're starting it with retreats this November in Park City for entrepreneurs in healthcare. And it's for people that have lived the journey that I've lived, and I think that resonates with a lot of us, where we've built businesses, we've listened to all the other voices in the healthcare world. We followed all the freaking rules that weren't our own. We did what they told us to do, and we end up with this business. But then we look at our life and we're like, okay, everybody tells me my business is really great, but I don't feel fulfilled. I'm not having fun. Like, I don't feel free. I feel trapped in my business, and I'm not the father or mother I want to be. I don't have relationships with my kids like I want to have. And when does that stop? And so, I have a really dialed in system to give people what they want out of life. And so for people that have built great businesses but aren't feeling what they want, that's like my future, I think. And my real dream, Sean, is that it's not just about people that have built businesses. It's about every person that operates with us inside of our companies. You know, I mean, probably the thing that's been most enjoyable for me is to watch how the systems I built have impacted like entry level team members. You know, how many times my team members have cried when we're doing quarterly meetings with them and checking in on what's going on in their personal life and trying to be a support as a company for them. It's like, you know, nobody's ever made a commitment to their personal life. Nobody's ever cared about what goes on for them outside of the office, you know? And so, yeah, that's the vision of where I'm going. That's where 4.0 is going, but who knows what the crap 5.0
I don't know what 5.0 go to Mars or something 5.0
crazy. I was going to say that. I was going to say Mars. I just saw that the other day. Yeah, 2030 we're supposed to go to Mars, so maybe 5.0 will be on that ship.
Maybe. You never know, man. You could talk to Elon, see what he says.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
So how do people get in touch with you? How do people learn about all of these things that you're up to, specifically the new venture? Like, do you guys have a website for that?
Yeah, you can just do smoke signals. That's pretty much the way I've operated for a long time. Just fan them out, like Morse code type stuff. I have just recently been developing a personal brand so that people can hear about it. That was a really big step for me. Really weird step. I didn't do social media or anything before that. So you can find out anything about me at drericjroman.com. And inside of there, there's links to, or at least there will be any day now, links to the One Life Circle, and it'll be onelifecircle.com. And that's our event that's coming up really quick in second week of November in Park City, Utah. And yeah, and you know, even if people just want to be friends, I can use more friends in my life. So if somebody wants to reach out and say, "Hey, I feel like you and I should be friends," well, there we are. It's kind of
Man, that's awesome. I'm looking through your site now. It looks good. You got the GQ photo shoot going on.
Oh gosh, yeah. You know, when we were doing that, we found this awesome little photographer up. Her name is Pepper Fox. I'm like,
are you serious? Like that's her name?
Fox. Like, wow. I mean, that's what she goes by. She's the Pepper Fox, and she made me do things that made me very uncomfortable in that photo shoot. But you know, it turned out okay.
Oh yeah, man, the site looks great.
I think I need to do another one. Yeah, so you know, it's got site version 3.0. When you have changes inside of you, version 3.0 to 4.0 of Eric, I got to change the freaking website too. That's like the worst part about recognizing there's a change problem, Sean. Sign up for that. Every time you have a change inside your soul, you have to change your personal brand. Crap. Nobody told me that. It's expensive. I'm going to need to stop changing. Change is costing me too much money.
Yeah, right, man. Yeah, right. Well, I can't thank you enough for coming on. Always love just hanging out with you and talking to you. It's cool to hear the origin of just how you got to where you are. And man, again, so it's drericjroman.com. You're on all the socials, I'm guessing, nowadays too. And then is there a way that people, if anybody's watching, just wants to talk to you directly? Is there an email or some way they can get hold of you?
Yeah, actually, if you just go to that, to the website, there's a talk to me. Let's talk. Let's get to know each other sort of link right on there. And they can just hit that and we can set up some time to chat. It's actually been fun. I enjoy getting to do you know what really means a lot to me is just hearing sometimes things that I've said that really resonate with people. That's the thing that might be more appreciated than anything else. Like, hey, when you said this, I felt that, you know, that makes me feel, oftentimes it feels like sometimes our journey that we go on and the pain that we go through has no power. But I've learned in sharing it, like it does have power, and that it touches other people. So yeah, that's the best way to do it. Link up with me there, and I think I do the Facebook thing and the Instagram thing. And LinkedIn. I just suck at all that. So we're getting there, Sean. Do you know a marketing guy?
I don't actually. Not anybody worth it. No, not anybody worth your time. I do not, unfortunately. Check. You could check Craigslist or something. I'm sure.
That's okay. Fine.
Well, Dr. Roman, thank you so much for being on the show, man. Always a good time.